The Last of Us games are truly a masterpiece in storytelling. These games find a striking balance between being engaging games and telling stories that deeply resonate with players. The characters are memorable and their experiences hit home because of how real and how relatable they are. So let's dive into some of the most emotional moments in the series that really highlight the balance created by these games of character development, gameplay, and narrative. Major spoiler warning up front, let's get into it. Up first is Sarah's death. Grief, a reoccurring theme in this series, shows up very early in the narrative. Here we see one of the first of many brutal losses. This moment is raw and brutal in its depiction of the senseless death of Sarah, fueled by the fear caused by this apocalypse. Joel is understandably destroyed here, and despite the limited amount of time that we've known these characters, we're really shaken to the core by this moment. We should have known a game that would start off like this, that would show us this intensity, this brutality. We should have known all the places that it would go, and yet it found ways to still take everyone by surprise. Next is Tess's sacrifice. Tess has a tough and down-to-earth exterior. She's very similar to Joel in that way. So it may surprise a lot of players that she is very hopeful deep down. Her sacrifice in this moment adds this layer of depth to her character. She begs Joel to take Ellie to the Fireflies. Joel is ready to give up, he's ready to walk away, and she begs him not to give up and not to stop.
This was 3 weeks. I was bitten an hour ago and it's already worse. This is fucking real, Joel. You've got to get this girl to Tommy's. He used to run with this crew. He'll know where to go.
No, that was your crusade. I am not doing that.
Yes, you are. Look, there's enough here that you have to feel some sort of obligation to me, so you get her to Tommy's.
She knows that she's not going to survive, but that she can make a sacrifice here that could lead to many other people's lives being saved if Ellie can make it to the Fireflies and if a cure can be created. The theme of loss and grief reappears here, but in this moment, it's with more hope than previously. While Tess's death is shocking, there's still this chance that's floating out there that it's not for nothing. Next is really the entire Left Behind DLC. This DLC is truly an emotional roller coaster. Here we see the excitement and anxiety of crushes and young love, and the pure elation of spending time with someone you enjoy. This DLC feels like such an escape, which I think is why the ending of it comes crashing down so hard. There's even really a transition in the presentation, with warmer, brighter colors being present for Ellie and Riley when they're hanging out at the mall, and then we're pulled back to that much more gray and dark world of the present. It's beautiful that Ellie has these memories of Riley, and though tragic, they have encouraged her to fight for those she loves and treasure every minute she has. This is a moment that is such an exploration of Ellie's character, and it's just so well done and so interesting to revisit. Once you've finished the first game, once you've finished the second game, there's just a lot here that can kind of educate you about this character and about what's to come. Next is Marlene's death. I want to talk about Marlene's death specifically because it's one of the moments that shows us how brutal and violent Joel can be. This is a little bit of like a preview or a warning of this side to Joel's character that maybe we don't always see as the villain, because we're seeing him protecting Ellie and we're seeing him do what seems like the right thing. In this situation, Joel is standing over someone who's probably mortally wounded and who's questioning his choices, and he chooses to shoot again at a very close range, stating,
You just come after her.
This is the Joel that others see, namely both Abby and eventually Ellie. It's actions like this that make his character so complicated. Joel isn't the hero. This isn't a heroic action, but it is a realistic one. In a world where there's so little happiness, you hold on tight to what you have, maybe even too tight. Joel sees happiness for himself and for Ellie, and he wants so badly for Ellie to have a future, and for them to have a future as surrogate father-daughter friends, and he's willing to do pretty much anything to achieve that. including to act ruthlessly and selfishly, and, as we'll see, to lie to one of the people that we believe that he loves the most. Joel does what he thinks is right, perhaps not considering that it's moments like this that are going to haunt Ellie and that are going to seal his fate. The end of the first Last of Us game is a really crucial moment. Ellie and Joel stand together at the beginning of a new life. The real questions here are if they can move past the past and if they can move past what they've done. Ellie asks Joel to tell her the truth about what happened at the hospital, and in this very critical moment, he lies to her face. Now, I don't know what would have happened if he told the truth. Who knows where things would have gone. And personally, I think Ellie knows he's lying, or at least she has a feeling. She's suspicious. But I think she also wants to be happy, and she wants to have some peace. That's something that neither of them has ever really had. So they both accept the lie, at least for now. Joel makes it his truth and largely lives with it while it lingers in Ellie's mind. It builds to so much more than they probably ever imagined in this moment. It's really interesting because this scene could easily be brushed off as a relatively happy ending rather than what I think it kind of actually is, which is a warning of what's to come. I don't think that this is a happy moment. I think that it's just more of a pause. There's still so much going on, and these characters have not found peace yet. In The Last of Us Part 2, one of the most obvious scenes that we have to talk about is Joel's death. Obviously, this scene is brutal and graphic. It really hits hard, and it makes the player feel a lot of feelings because it's meant to. The viewers feel the horror of the situation, as Ellie does, and there's nothing we can do but watch, just like her. At this point, we don't have full awareness of the emotional complexity of this situation, but it'll become clear to us with time. Ellie was trying to mend things with Joel. She wanted to move forwards despite what she learned about the hospital, and his death leaves many things unresolved for her. Her grief and the lack of closure blinds her to the reality that Abby's motivations come from nearly the same place: grief, lack of closure, and a loved one violently taken from her by Joel. This scene is in no way straightforward. There is a huge amount of emotional depth, and complicated, layered emotions abound. The writing and the performances in this scene really highlight how well the Last of Us series can portray complicated emotions and the level of emotional complexity and layers to this story. Really, as brutal and violent as this scene is, it lays human brutality and suffering out in front of everyone, and you have to confront it and see how it plays out in the rest of the game and just live with it. Next is the museum visit. The flashbacks in The Last of Us Part 2 are beautifully done. They give us insight into Ellie and Joel and what has created the rift that we see in their relationship. We also see them growing older together, and it's sweet to see both attempting to make efforts to connect despite their distance and the changes that they're experiencing. The trip to the museum in particular has such high, happy moments and more low, dark reminders of what has happened and what's to come. When we see the scene between Ellie and Joel, and she's listening to the recording and she's in the shuttle, this is such a pure moment of happiness between these characters. It's almost as if for a few seconds, our two characters can step away from everything else that's happened. And it's very rare to be able to see that and to experience it with them. Because I remember the first time I played through this scene and I completely forgot about all of this other stuff that's happening, in Seattle and with Joel being killed by Abby. And for a second, it just goes away. I don't know many other games that can just transport you away from their own game to this other, much more happy place and then transport you right back. It's truly epically well done. And then, of course, a little while later, while exploring the museum, Ellie is reminded of the fireflies and all of the unanswered questions that she has. This, epically high, happy moment comes only a few minutes before we really start to see Ellie distancing herself from Joel, showing doubt in their relationship, and things beginning to shift between the two of them. It's interesting to see that grand gestures can only go so far when you're talking about telling the truth to someone that you love. Let's take a little break from the sad emotional moments, the emotionally intense moments, and let's talk about an incredibly sweet and romantic moment. At the music shop in Seattle, Ellie and Dina have a moment together wherein Ellie plays guitar and sings for Dina. She sings an acoustic version of Take On Me, and it's extremely fitting for the moment and for their relationship. I don't know if you pay a ton of attention to song lyrics, but I want to lay down some of the song lyrics from this song so that you see what I mean by how fitting this is, what an excellent song choice this was. For example, quote, "So needless to say, I'm odds and ends, but I'll be stumbling away, slowly learning that life is okay. Say after me, it's no better to be safe than sorry," unquote. These lyrics fit the moment, the game, and the couple so well. It's interesting, sometimes music communicates what regular words never could. And it's beautiful that the subtlety of this song choice and the performance carries so much depth and meaning for the overall story and the arc of these characters. It's another moment that, similar to the museum, is a step away from the horror of this story, the intensity and the tragedy of this story, and it's a really pure and beautiful moment. It was really hard to narrow down moments in The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 has a lot of really good emotional moments. It kind of feels like things just got cranked up a notch. But I wanted to talk about one that I feel like I don't see talked about quite as much, and that's Abby's father's death. This is the first time that we've seen this death from anyone's perspective other than Joel. And it's a bit different from this perspective, isn't it? This moment for Abby plays out like a horror movie. Walking down a hallway, gun in hand, the lights are flashing, the alarms are blaring. Then she learns of her father's death and she's destroyed. Just like how we see Ellie destroyed at the death of Joel. No one is winning here, and yet the violence is easier to face and to feel like it'll bring closure than anything else for these characters. It's tragic, truly, and no less so because they actually have a lot in common, and yet they are bound to try to destroy each other. This scene will not let you forget that there are multiple sides to the tragedy here, and it serves as a warning that no one will make it out unscathed. No one's winning here, and no one is the good guy. There are no good guys in this story. This is a complicated story, and the writing makes that possible. It makes it possible to have a story like this that makes you feel a little morally weird, like, ooh, I'm not sure about this. Not a lot of games, even TV shows, movies can do that, but The Last of Us does that. Finally, let's talk about the final confrontation. I was really split here between the final confrontation and Ellie returning to the farm, but I think that they go hand in hand quite a bit. As a player, think to yourself for a minute, what did you actually want out of this confrontation? By this point in the story, we know how tortured both of these characters are, and that neither is entirely free from blame for what's happened here. If you were me, you were back with Dina, begging Ellie to just leave it and try to move forwards, but she can't. Ellie has experienced so much loss, so much instability. She expresses numerous times that her death at the hospital should have been her fate, so that she could have died for something. With that taken from her by Joel, it seems that she's continued to struggle with finding meaning and purpose in her life, and that she holds a massive amount of guilt that the deaths of people like Tess, Riley, Marlene were for quote-unquote nothing because the cure was never made. That's where she's at mentally, so her continual need to follow Abby, it makes sense. She finally realizes, as she's nearly killed Abby, that none of that will remedy the problem. It won't bring Joel back. It won't bring Tess, Riley, or Marlene back, and it won't fix how she feels. If anything, it will create more problems. Lev is watching what she's doing, just like she watched Abby kill Joel. What she can do here is break this cycle of violence, which she does. It takes losing nearly everything, but Ellie does it. There isn't a lot of outward hope in this scene, but it is a hopeful moment weirdly. There's still time for these characters to have lives, something that really no one else around them has had. And in that way, no matter what they do with their lives, as long as it's not hunting each other and killing each other, they have found that purpose, they have found that meaning. Just living their lives, hopefully, for themselves in better, happier, and healthier ways. I don't think it's too late for that for either of them. I do think that there's a little bit of hope here still. There's no doubt, The Last of Us series has been able to connect with so many people, start conversations, and leave people really feeling their feelings. The Last of Us games really exemplify video game storytelling and the ability of video games to connect with people and evoke emotions in a powerful way, just like any other medium. Music, TV, movies. Let me know in the comments what your favorite emotional moments are in The Last of Us games, what moments hit you the hardest. If you like more content like this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.